That morning felt like any other at first. The house was quiet except for the gentle hum of the refrigerator and the occasional rustle of wind pushing against the kitchen window. I had been up for about an hour, half watching the news on mute and checking emails on my laptop. Nothing about it seemed like the kind of morning that would change your life, but that's the thing, right? The big moments never arrive with warning signs. Allison came down the stairs like she always did, hair wet, no makeup, wearing one of my oversized college t-shirts that hung off her shoulder like it was trying to slide away from her entirely. She had a mug of coffee in one hand and a half-eaten bagel in the other, cream cheese smeared lazily on one edge. She was barefoot, yawning. Just a normal Tuesday. I barely glanced up. I said, "Morning," and she echoed it back with a little smirk like she always did when I was being robotic. I was typing something about vendor payments when she sat across from me. That caught my attention. She usually took her breakfast to the couch where she could prop her feet up and scroll her phone. But she sat down across the table from me, elbows resting on the wood, eyes lingering on me longer than normal. That's when I knew something was off. So, she started, dragging out the word like it needed room to breathe. After that meeting yesterday, I had a weird chat with Michael. Michael. The name didn't mean much at first, but I knew who she meant. Tall guy, kind of loud, always wearing those slim-fit button-ups with the sleeves rolled a little too perfectly. Her coworker. She'd mentioned him once or twice, in the same tone you'd use for someone vaguely annoying but tolerable. I looked up from my screen. "Okay," I said slowly. "Weird how?" She laughed, but not in a funny way. More like someone trying to downplay a mistake before admitting it. "He was flirting with me," she said, her lips curling into a half-grin like she was embarrassed but also kind of amused. And I kind of liked it. It took me a second to process what she'd said. I wasn't even sure I'd heard her right. "You liked it?" "I mean, not seriously," she rushed out, waving her free hand like she was brushing away a fly. "It was just small talk. Harmless. But I figured I should be honest about it." She took a sip of her coffee like that was it. Like she had just confessed to eating the last cookie or forgetting to feed the dog. I stared at her, unsure whether to be confused, mad, or just numb. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked finally, my voice low. She shrugged. "I don't know. I just figured you'd rather know than not. It's not a big deal, seriously. It just made me think, I guess. Like, people still notice me." She smiled a little, and I hated how familiar that smile looked. I'd seen her give it to strangers at weddings, to servers who complimented her dress, to old friends who bumped into her at the grocery store. It was a performance. And I was watching it up close. I didn't say anything. I just stared at her, trying to make sense of what kind of game this was. Was it a test? A warning? Or something worse? As if on cue, her phone buzzed on the table. The screen lit up and her eyes flicked down toward it just for a split second. I caught a glimpse of the name on the lock screen. It wasn't Michael, but it wasn't one of her girlfriends either. I couldn't make it out clearly, just that it wasn't someone I knew. She reached for it a little too quickly, turning the screen face down and tucking it under her palm like she was shielding it from sunlight. Then she stood up. "Crap, I'm supposed to meet Rachel for breakfast," she said, suddenly in a rush. "Since when?" I asked, eyes narrowing. She paused. Just for a second. Then said, "I told you last night, remember?" She hadn't. I'm not the most attentive guy in the world, but I would have remembered something like that. Especially since I had made breakfast plans with her myself and she bailed, saying she wanted to sleep in. "Right," I said quietly. She kissed me on the forehead, which felt awkward and out of place. She never did that. I watched her walk out the door, keys jingling in her hand, her phone already unlocked and glowing in front of her as she texted someone with rapid-fire thumbs. When the door shut, I sat back in my chair, staring at the place where she'd been sitting just a minute ago. Something about her energy, the way she had floated in, dropped that confession like a pebble into a still pond, then vanished like nothing had happened. It all felt scripted. I tried to go back to work, but the words on the screen didn't make sense anymore. My head was buzzing. That conversation didn't feel like honesty. It felt like groundwork. Like the kind of thing you say to soften the blow before a much bigger impact. The thing is, I wasn't a suspicious person. I trusted Allison. We'd been married long enough that I thought we were past this kind of stuff. Affairs, secrets, lies, those belong to other people's stories, not ours. But something in her voice that morning, it didn't feel like a slip-up. It felt like a breadcrumb. Like she was daring me to follow it. I opened my laptop again, but not to work. I pulled up our phone bill, something I hadn't done in years. And just like that, my fingers started scrolling. That morning, just a regular Tuesday, would be the last normal day we'd have together. Not because everything ended right then and there, but because it was the first time I knew, deep in my gut, that something was seriously wrong. and once that seed was planted it didn't stop growing. I didn't get much done that day. I must have sat in front of that laptop for hours, screen glowing, fingers still, mind racing. I'd type half a sentence, delete it, stare at the blinking cursor like it had something to say. But all I could really do was replay that morning. Her voice. That offhand confession. The way she tucked her phone away like it was a reflex she'd been practicing. There was a weight on my chest, something heavy but invisible. I wasn't panicking, not exactly, but it felt like standing at the edge of something. Like looking down a staircase in the dark, not sure if the next step would be there. And when I closed my eyes, all I saw were the things I'd ignored. Over the past few weeks, there had been these tiny, quiet changes. Things that didn't seem like red flags at the time, but now, in hindsight, they were practically glowing. First, it was the bed. She'd stopped sleeping next to me consistently. Some nights she said her head hurt. Other nights she claimed she needed to be up early for work and didn't want to disturb me. I didn't fight it. I figured maybe it was stress. She was working on a big project and things had been tense. But the distance had started long before that. Then there was her phone. It became her shadow. She used to leave it on the coffee table or in the charger by the kitchen. But lately it went everywhere with her, the bathroom, the laundry room, even into the backyard when she took calls. And she started using her laptop less. Said it was just easier to do everything on mobile. I remember one night, maybe 3 weeks ago, she was taking a shower and I heard her phone ding from the counter. I glanced at it without thinking, just curious. The notification didn't show a name, just a preview, "You looked amazing today." I barely had time to register it before the message disappeared like it was set to auto-hide. I didn't say anything then. Maybe I should have. But I told myself it could have been from anyone, coworker, friend, someone complimenting her outfit. That's how far down the rabbit hole of rationalizing I was. Then there was the cologne. Allison doesn't wear perfume very often and I haven't changed cologne brands in 5 years. But one evening, she came home from a client dinner and leaned in to kiss me and there it was, this unfamiliar scent. Musky. Expensive. Male. I joked about it. "Damn, were you hugging the clients goodnight?" She laughed and said, "Oh God, yeah, it must have rubbed off in the elevator. These guys wear enough cologne for 10 people. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? But now I couldn't stop thinking about it. And then there was that laundry day. It was a Saturday and she was in a rush. Said she had to drop off something at her sister's place and didn't want to be late. I offered to help with the laundry and while sorting through a pile of clothes from her travel bag, something caught my eye. A men's dress shirt, neatly folded. Navy blue. Expensive looking. Not mine. "What's this?" I asked. She barely looked at it. "Oh, that's for my brother. His birthday's coming up." I forgot it was in there. It sounded plausible at the time. But why would a gift shirt already be unwrapped? Why was it in her dirty laundry pile? I told myself not to overthink it. But now? It haunted me. Then there were the trips. Her job occasionally required travel, nothing excessive, just overnight conferences or client visits. But they started getting more frequent. First once a month. Then twice. Then sometimes 2 weekends in a row. Always to nearby cities, St. Louis, Indianapolis, Columbus. She'd bring back souvenir mugs, stories about panels, photos of her hotel room, half-eaten desserts. What was missing, though, was people. No group *TS. No team dinners. Just vague captions, "busy day" or "finally relaxing." There's one photo in particular I remember clearly, her legs stretched across a hotel bed, a wine glass balanced in one hand. It was posted on her story for maybe an hour before she took it down. I commented something playful like, "Wow, working hard, huh?" and she never responded. Now I wonder who was in the room with her, just outside the frame? It's funny how your brain starts rearranging things when you're suspicious. Conversations you once shrugged off become evidence. Silences become clues. And suddenly you're backtracking, reconstructing weeks, months, even years, trying to find the crack where it all began. And the more I thought about it, the more it felt like maybe the cracks were always there. I just didn't want to see them. There was this one dinner, maybe 6 weeks ago. We were at our favorite Italian place and she was distracted the entire time. Her phone was in her lap and every few minutes she'd glance down and type something quickly. I tried to engage her in conversation, but it felt like I was pulling teeth. At one point I asked, "Is everything okay?" She looked up like I'd interrupted a thought she didn't want to share. "Yeah, sorry. Work's just been nuts lately." That was the default answer for everything. Work. But work didn't text you at midnight. Work didn't send fire emojis. And then God, there was her birthday. I had surprised her with a dinner reservation, just the two of us. I even arranged for her favorite wine to be at the table ahead of time. She was grateful, smiled, even kissed me across the table. But it was forced. She excused herself to the bathroom midway through the meal and was gone for 15 minutes. When she came back, her expression was tight, eyes a little glassy. I thought maybe she'd gotten emotional, overwhelmed by the night. But now I wonder if she'd been on the phone. With him. I didn't want to believe it. Even now, sitting there with my untouched coffee gone cold and my inbox full of unread messages, I didn't want it to be true. But I couldn't deny the pattern. This wasn't just distance. It wasn't a rough patch. It was something else. I opened our shared photo drive. I scrolled back through the past few months, looking for anything, any photo that might show me what I missed. Most of them were innocuous. But the captions started to sting. Out of office energy, hot beverage, laptop, computer. City lights and solo vibes, night with stars. Missing home, but not the deadlines. The weird part? In almost every single picture, she wasn't looking at the camera. She was looking off-screen. Smiling. For someone supposedly alone, she sure looked like she was having company. I didn't sleep much that night. I stayed on the couch, flipping through our digital albums like I was examining someone else's life. And the more I looked, the more certain I became. This wasn't just paranoia. This was a story she had been writing in the background while I lived in the foreground. And I was finally reading the fine print. The next morning, the sun rose like it always did, indifferent, even beautiful. But I wasn't looking at the sky. I was looking at a screen. It happened by accident, really? Or maybe fate decided it was done playing polite. Around 7 a.m. I got a notification on my phone from our old shared cloud account, something about a device reconnecting. I'd almost forgotten about that tablet, the one Allison used to read on back when she was into ebooks and yoga apps. We hadn't touched it in years. But there it was, alive again, and now synced to the cloud we both used to dump notes, photos, saved web pages. It was buried under updates and years of digital dust, but once I realized what it was, something clicked in my head. I don't know what possessed me to check it, but I'm glad I did. Or maybe I'm not. I don't know anymore. I opened the cloud interface on my laptop, navigated to the photo folders, and clicked. At first, nothing unusual, snapsh ts of old grocery lists, yoga poses, screensh ts of Pinterest recipes. But then I saw a folder I didn't recognize. It was titled backup_03. Harmless sounding. Like something you'd ignore if you weren't already suspicious. I clicked it. Inside were two folders, stl_conf and private. I opened stl_conf first. That's when everything shifted. There were dozens of photos, some of them ones I'd already seen on her Instagram, hotel bedding, cappuccinos, half-empty wine glasses on a windowsill. But there were others. Ones that never made it online. Photos taken from bed, clearly in a hotel suite, but this time she wasn't alone. In one sh*t, Allison's arm was stretched across a bare chest, definitely not mine. Another showed her feet tangled with someone else's under white sheets, a pair of shoes visible on the carpet nearby. Dress shoes. Men's size. Familiar. Then I saw it. A mirror selfie she must have taken without realizing he was reflected behind her, lying on the bed, shirtless, holding his phone. And even though the photo was grainy, I recognized him instantly. Michael. Of course it was Michael. I froze. My hands actually started shaking. I didn't even realize I was holding my breath until my lungs started to hurt. The date stamp on the photo? The same weekend she said she was at a leadership conference. I backed out of the folder and clicked on the other one, private. I wasn't sure I wanted to know what was inside. But I couldn't stop. Curiosity had long since been replaced by necessity. There were 5 video files. I clicked the first. It was recorded in a hotel room. Allison's voice came first, laughing, teasing, light. Then Michael's. The camera wasn't held very steadily, like someone set it up on a dresser or a table. I saw her, my wife, sitting on the bed, hair messy, legs crossed, wearing one of those silky robes she never wore around me anymore. She looked radiant. Alive. And not once did she glance at the camera like it was a secret. Then Michael stepped into frame and kissed her neck, and I stopped watching. I couldn't do it. Not right then. But I still heard her voice say, between giggles, he still thinks I'm out having breakfast with friends. Sweet thing. Sweet thing. That's what she used to call me when we first started dating. She said it once while feeding me pancakes in bed, and it became a private little nickname. Now she was using it as a joke. I shut the laptop. I didn't cry. I didn't throw anything. I didn't scream or punch a wall. I just sat there at the dining table, staring at the wood grain like it could offer me answers. I didn't know if I was more devastated by what I saw or by how unsurprised I was. It all made sense now, the phone always on silent, the lingering glances at her screen, the way she had slowly replaced in asterisk Macy with logistics. Our relationship had become a calendar, dates, reminders, plans. But no emotion. And now I understood why. Because her emotional life wasn't here anymore. It had moved. I walked outside. The air was cold enough to sting a little, but it helped. I didn't have a plan. I just needed to stand there, barefoot on the porch, my mind blank, heart beating like a war drum inside my chest. I stood there for maybe 10 minutes before I went back inside. I made coffee, not because I needed it, but because I needed something to do with my hands. The normalcy of it was almost surreal. I was stirring sugar into a mug like I hadn't just seen my marriage collapse in a cloud drive folder. Then I did something strange. I opened the folder again. Not because I wanted to torture myself, but because I needed to understand just how far it went. I watched exactly 20 more seconds of the second video. Just enough to hear Michael say, "You know we're good at this, right? He's never gonna find out." And Allison replied, deadpan, "Not unless you're dumb enough to upload it to the wrong folder." I had to laugh. Because that's exactly what he did. I copied everything, every photo, every video, every message thread I could find into a new folder. I labeled it Truth. I moved it to an encrypted drive and backed it up. I wasn't sure what I'd do with it yet. But I knew one thing, I wasn't letting her gaslight me out of this. I wasn't going to give her the chance to twist this into some emotional confusion story. Not when I had evidence. Not when I could hear her voice saying, "Sweet thing," while sitting in someone else's lap. The strangest part? I felt calm. Cold, but calm. Like the part of me that wanted to fix things had already died, and all that was left was this version of me, quiet, collected, done. Done pretending. Done hoping. Done lying to myself. I sat there for a long time, watching the sunlight stretch across the kitchen tiles. At one point, I heard a bird chirping on the fence outside. For a second, everything looked normal. Ordinary. You'd never guess that just a few feet away, a laptop sat full of betrayal. And the person it implicated? Still out somewhere, probably smiling, texting, pretending nothing was wrong. I didn't know what I'd do next, but I knew this wasn't something we could talk through. This wasn't a fight. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't fixable. This was a decision. One she made again and again, behind closed hotel doors and under fake names in photo folders. And now? It was my turn to make a decision. By the time Allison got home that evening, the house had already changed. Not in any way she'd notice, not right away. But I felt it. I felt the shift. There's a certain kind of silence that settles in when something inside you dies. It's not sad. It's not angry. It's surgical. Clean. And that's where I was. Clean and ready. She walked through the front door like it was any other night. Hung up her coat. Kicked off her shoes. Gave me the tired half-smile she'd perfected over the years. "Hey," she said, setting her keys on the counter. "You eat yet?" I shook my head. "Not really hungry." She walked past me, opened the fridge, pulled out a bottle of kombucha. Same flavor she always bought, cranberry ginger. Like nothing had happened. Like she wasn't the main character in a video I couldn't unsee. She leaned against the counter, scrolling through her phone. "I was thinking maybe we could go to that Italian place Friday night. You know, reset a little. What do you think?" I stared at her. Really looked at her. She still looked like Allison. Same messy bun. Same faint freckles. Same little scar near her eyebrow from when we went paddle boarding in Michigan and she fell into the rocks. But now it felt like I was looking at a very convincing impression of someone I used to love. "I'll think about it," I said. My voice didn't shake. I was proud of that. She nodded and went upstairs. No idea that while she was sipping kombucha and pretending we were fine, I had already begged *N designing the end. That night, after she went to bed, our bed, I stayed downstairs with my laptop and a portable hard drive. I organized everything. Videos, photos, screensh *TS, even timestamps from our shared calendar that didn't line up with where she claimed to be. I made folders, subfolders, color-coded everything. I turned emotion into evidence. I gave each file a label. room_207_St. Louis.mov, call log _Thursday, message thread _Michael June 21, txt. It was almost therapeutic, like I was reclaiming order from the chaos she dropped into my lap. Once I had everything organized, I opened a document and wrote a single sentence at the top. What she did, when she did it, what she said. Then I listed every lie she told, every contradiction, every excuse. No embellishment, No dramatic language. Just the facts, laid bare. If I ever started doubting myself, and I knew at some point she'd try to twist this into some fog of confusion, I wanted something cold and clear to remind me I wasn't crazy. The next morning, I drove to a print shop 20 minutes outside town. I didn't want anyone local seeing what I was doing. I handed the USB drive to a woman behind the counter, told her I needed professional quality prints and binding. She didn't ask questions, just took the drive and told me to come back in a few hours. While I waited, I sat in a diner across the street, drinking the worst coffee I'd had in years. It didn't matter. My mind was elsewhere. I thought about how I'd let myself believe we were okay. I thought about the nights I rubbed her back when she said she had migraines, never realizing she was probably lying next to me while texting Michael under the covers. I thought about all the weekends she needed space, and how I told myself love meant giving it. Then I thought about her family. Allison had a younger sister, Claire. Sweet kid, just turned 24. She was engaged, and the family had planned a dinner for her birthday/engagement. Sunday night, a small gathering. Her mom, dad, cousins, and us. We'd been on the guest list for months. That's when it hit me. The opportunity wasn't just there, it was perfect. By the time I picked up the prints that afternoon, I had a plan. I called her father first. He and Allison's mom had been divorced for years, but they were still civil. I asked casually if he'd be there Sunday, and he said yes. Said he was actually looking forward to it. It's nice when we all sit down like grown-ups for once. I thanked him, said I'd bring a bottle of wine. That gave me exactly 3 days to prepare. When I got home, Allison was out, supposedly grabbing dinner with a friend from work. I didn't even bother to ask who. I used the time to assemble the packets. Each one labeled. Each one sealed in a white envelope. Inside, a printed copy of the most telling evidence. Her with Michael in bed, laughing, tangled in sheets, time-stamped with the exact date and location. A short summary of what I'd discovered. And at the end, a single note from me. Before you ask why, consider the fact that I never wanted to do this. I only wanted the truth. She gave me lies. I made 6 copies. 1 for her dad. 1 for her mom. 1 for Claire and her fiancé. 1 for her cousin, the one she always confided in. 1 for Allison herself. And 1 for me. Friday came and went without drama. She was sweeter than usual. Wore the green blouse she knew I liked. Made breakfast Saturday morning. Talked about maybe taking a trip this summer. Just us. To reconnect. I nodded. Smiled. Asked her to text me her schedule for next week. She never suspected a thing. That night I couldn't sleep. Not because I was nervous, but because I was too calm. I kept waiting for guilt to show up. For hesitation. But it didn't come. Because what I was doing wasn't revenge. It was revelation. This wasn't me trying to hurt her. It was me refusing to let her hide. If she wanted to live 2 lives, then fine. But I wasn't going to keep playing the supporting role in the one she wanted to abandon. Sunday evening arrived, and I got to the restaurant half an hour early. It was a quiet place, soft lighting, rustic decor, the kind of spot people use for proposals or reunions. I greeted the staff, confirmed our reservation, and handed the maitre d' the envelopes. Please place one of these in front of each seat, I said. And don't worry, they're not dramatic. Just personal. He gave me a look, but didn't ask questions. One by one, her family arrived. Her dad first. Then her mom and Claire, arm in arm, beaming like it was Christmas. I hugged them all, asked about work, traffic, wedding plans. Played the part. Even made a dumb joke about the wine list being longer than the Constitution. The envelope sat there, untouched. I told them, please don't open them yet. Let's wait for Allison. When she walked in 5 minutes late, wearing a white coat and bright lipstick, everything stopped. She froze. I stood to greet her, but she didn't move. Her eyes locked on the table. On the envelopes. On her father, already holding one in his hands. Then her gaze fell on the center of the table. The maitre d' had placed a small decorative frame there, one meant to hold a table number. Inside it, instead of a number, I had placed a photo. Michael. In bed. Looking right at the camera. She didn't speak. No one did. But I watched her face, watched it collapse in slow motion. The smile vanished. Her posture shrank. Her hands trembled. I walked over and handed her the last envelope. Looked her in the eye. You should read this before dessert. Then I turned and left. No screaming. No scene. No public meltdown. Just silence. And the truth. I didn't drive home right away. After leaving the restaurant, I walked. No direction, no destination, just the city, dim and quiet, unfolding in front of me. I passed a bakery closing up for the night. A couple arguing over parking. A kid skateboarding alone, hoodie up, music leaking from his earbuds. It all felt like white noise. My body was moving, but my mind was still back at that table. I kept seeing their faces. Her dad, eyebrows furrowed, turning the envelope over in his hands like it might explode. Her mom, too stunned to say anything, one hand frozen halfway to her wine glass. Claire, the one person I thought might scream, stone silent, reading every word like she'd already known the ending. And Allison, she didn't cry. Not right away. That was the part that struck me. She just stood there. It wasn't confusion on her face. It was recognition. Like the exact moment someone realizes the door they thought was locked had been wide open all along. I made it back to my car about an hour later. Sat behind the wheel for a while, engine off, headlights dark. I should have felt triumphant, I guess. Vindicated. Like I'd scored some righteous blow for every betrayed spouse out there. But I didn't. I felt drained. Not because I regretted it, but because the war was over. And now there was nothing left but wreckage. When I got home, the house felt heavier. Not haunted exactly, but different. Like it had absorbed the energy of the truth I'd finally let out into the world. I dropped my keys on the counter, toed off my shoes, and headed straight for the shower. I didn't even turn on the lights. I just stood there under the water until it ran cold. I toweled off, threw on a hoodie and sweatpants, and collapsed on the couch. I didn't turn on the TV. Didn't look at my phone. I just sat there in the dark. At some point, I must have fallen asleep. When I woke up, it was nearly midnight and she was standing in the doorway. Allison. Same white coat. Same lipstick, now smudged. Her eyes were red. Her hands were empty, but there was something clenched in her fist. A flash drive. She didn't say hello. She just stepped inside slowly, like she wasn't sure if she'd be let in. I didn't move. Didn't offer her a seat. I just waited. I need to show you something, she said quietly. I nodded once. All right. She walked over and handed me the flash drive. It's all on here, she said, almost in a whisper. You need to see it. I looked at her. More videos? She shook her head. Yes. But not just us. She was trembling now. Not the performative kind, real, unsteady, barely holding it together kind. It's not just me, she said. He's done this before. To others. I stared at the flash drive. Small. Black. Just plastic and circuitry. But I already knew it was about to detonate something bigger than either of us were ready for. I plugged it into my laptop. Folders again. This time names. Dates. All alphabetized. At least 7 different women. A few labeled with initials, others with full names. And inside each folder, videos. Some screensh asterisk TS. Some recorded conversations. I clicked on one labeled J_Howard. The woman in the video was familiar. Our old assistant. Jenna. She'd quit a few months ago, abruptly, right after Allison's St. Louis trip. I remembered being confused by it. She had seemed happy, competent. No signs of trouble. But here she was in Michael's apartment. Sitting stiffly on his couch, clearly nervous. He was off camera, saying things I won't repeat, but it was clear this wasn't mutual. This was manipulation. Control. Leverage. Another file, A_Mendez. A nanny Allison had recommended to Claire. Same pattern. Same setup. Recorded without consent. Pushed into silence with threats, subtle or not. I closed the folder. Sat back in my chair. This wasn't just an affair, I said aloud, mostly to myself. This was a pattern. She nodded. He's been doing it for years. He gets them alone, makes it seem safe, then films it. Uses it. Threatens them if they ever speak. And you? I asked, without looking at her. What was he using on you? She sat down finally, her voice barely audible. Nothing. Not at first. I thought I was special. I thought I was the one he wasn't doing that to. My stomach turned. And then? I asked. She exhaled. Then I saw a file named after me. And I realized I wasn't special. Just next. I didn't respond. There was nothing to say that wouldn't come out as venom. After a pause, she added, I'm sorry I lied. About all of it. I don't expect you to forgive me. But this, she gestured to the screen, this has to go somewhere. Someone has to stop him. I nodded. And someone will. The next morning, I called a lawyer. Not a divorce attorney this time. A criminal one. I explained everything, handed over the flash drive, the copies I'd made, every shred of evidence I had. He didn't waste time. Within 48 hours, it was in the hands of the police. No big arrest. No headlines. No cuffs outside an office building. Just quiet. Coordinated. Professional. Michael was gone before his coworkers even noticed. They called it an internal investigation. I called it karma. Allison never tried to defend herself after that. She didn't ask for another chance. Didn't offer therapy, tears, or explanations. Just a short letter. If you ever find it in your heart to forgive me, let me know. I'll be here. If not, I'll still be sorry. I didn't write back. Instead, I moved. New apartment. New couch. No shared closets, no drawer of forgotten photos. I left everything behind, furniture, decorations, even the kettle we picked out at that boutique shop downtown. I didn't want any of it. Not the objects. Not the memories. I started running in the mornings. I read books again. I drank coffee alone, slowly, in silence. I didn't check her socials. Didn't text mutual friends for updates. I just stopped. The world didn't end. It softened. I remember one morning, maybe a month later, I was at a bookstore downtown. It was quiet, smelled like old pages and rain. I was flipping through a copy of a novel I knew I wouldn't finish when someone next to me muttered, "I never finish books either. I just collect beginnings." I looked up. Melanie. That was her name. We talked. About nothing at first, paperbacks, coffee beans, the annoying sound bookstore doors make when they squeak too loud. She was sharp. Kind. A little awkward. We laughed. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like a man who'd been cheated on. I didn't feel like a ghost of someone's husband. I just felt like me. And that was enough. A week passed after Michael's quiet arrest. The news never broke. No mugsh asterisk TS. No press release. Just a name that disappeared from a company directory, a man who vanished like a ghost. I kept thinking I'd feel closure when it happened, but what I really felt was tired. Not defeated, just emptied out. Like all the fight in me had finally done its job and gone quiet. Allison showed up one last time. She didn't knock. Just stood outside my building holding an envelope and a different kind of silence. I opened the door. No words. Just tired eyes and a small flash drive she pressed into my hand. "I found one more folder," she said. "It's encrypted, but you'll want to see it." Inside was a final set of recordings, Michael bragging. He'd filmed everything. Even the conversations where he threatened them after. Students. Assistants. One woman crying, saying she was married. Another asking him to delete the file. And Allison's voice shaking, younger, pleading, "Why would you even save this?" He laughed in response. Leverage. That word kept ringing in my head. I sent it all to the lawyer. Sealed. Documented. Delivered. The final blow wasn't for her. Or for me. It was for every woman he silenced. And it landed. It's strange how quiet healing is. There were no fireworks. No triumphant playlist in the background. Just a new apartment, a slower morning routine, and a steady kind of stillness I hadn't felt in years. I didn't respond to Allison's letter. What was left to say? Some days I wondered if she ever really loved me or if I was just safe. A placeholder for stability while she searched for chaos in other people's arms. Either way, I stopped needing the answer. One day at a cafe, Melanie walked in again. Same oversized tote bag, same mismatched earrings. She asked if I ever finished that book I picked up. I hadn't. We laughed. No sparks. No promises. Just something quiet. Simple. That's when I knew I wasn't rebuilding the past. I was finally walking out of its shadow.